relatively young attorney who had graduated from NC Central Law School about 7 years ago decided that life was no longer worth living last Friday. And I'm not sure how it happened, whether it was by gunshot or hanging or whatever. Not really sure, but it has brought up a big bunch of dialogue, at least on Facebook, amongst the practicing attorneys around here. Everybody's talking about, what were the signs? He seemed happy. He was always posting pictures of himself out with friends and traveling, enjoying life with his wife and his child. And just doing a little bit more delving into this person. Might as well mention his name since this is already out in the public sphere. His name is Charles Kunz. And he was a solo practitioner who practiced immigration law in addition to criminal and traffic, basically whatever kind of work you could get as a small solo practitioner out in Durham. And I'll go ahead and flash up the GoFundMe for his family if anybody feels compelled to support it. So it says here, I guess this is common with when people take their own lives, that people are wondering what happened, what were the signs, how could it have been prevented, and why did he do it? Seems like Charles had kind of a tough legal career. Not surprisingly, I have covered this topic many times about how tough it is to get a good job once you graduate from law school. If you didn't go to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, or whatever, and you don't have connections, it's a really tough job market out there. And there are probably, I think there are 6 law schools in North Carolina now. And they're thinking about opening up one more law school at High Point University, which is ridiculous, but I digress. I think that was part of the reason why Charles might have had some struggles to some extent as a young attorney, because it looked like he had only worked as a part-time contract attorney for another solo practitioner. He did some work for a nonprofit group. I think it involved immigrant rights in Raleigh briefly, but for the most part of his 6-year career, he was a solo practitioner. And let me go ahead and take a look here. Thank you guys for being here today. So it looks like it has raised over $58,000 so far for his wife and daughter. It says Charles Kunz, husband, father, friend, attorney, colleague. We all knew him in different ways. He was much loved and will be much missed. To pass at such a young age is tragic. In this dark time, he would want all of us to remember his snark, sarcasm, and laughter. But I remember his heart, how he strived to help clients, friends, and colleagues alike, how he grew into being such a great dad. My heart is in pieces, but I must put that aside to help his family. So this is written by a good friend of the family. And a lot of my friends knew him through the immigration lawyers group. I sort of knew him. We didn't know each other personally, but we were both part of a Facebook group for North Carolina attorneys with immigrant clients. And I remember Charles just seeming like a friendly, nice guy. He would answer questions, pipe in on some of the dialogue. People would mention him as someone to refer cases to. So he did have some problems with the state bar, which I think is quite common with solo practitioners, especially ones who haven't been out of law school too long. You might not be working under the supervision of someone who's a lot more experienced. So I think he was reprimanded or censored by the state bar about a year or two ago. And I think the issue was that he had failed to properly fill out or advise one of his immigration clients. And I did see a bunch of negative reviews for him in addition to a lot of positive reviews too. I mean, it's tough to be a solo practitioner where everybody expects you to be at their beck and call. And if you're trying to do all sorts of different types of cases because you need the business, it makes it even harder to get good at a specific area of law when you're running around doing 10 different types of cases. So, poor guy, he was also, what do you call it? It was a trust account, where he was reviewed by the state bar last year too. People had said he had to meet with somebody from the state bar to go for all his trust accounts. So that can happen to you also. That's happened to a couple of firms that I worked for, and it's always a pain in the butt, and you feel stressed out because someone from the state bar is coming in and looking at all your finances and your accounting and making sure that you kept proper records of your clients' trust funds. So that's another place where a lot of young attorneys kind of may screw up, because if you don't know the proper rules and you're so overwhelmed with trying to pay the rent and learn different areas of the law, then it's really hard to also keep track of the admin issues as a solo practitioner, which is also what I am. So I felt really bad reading more about what Charles went through. And it just kind of feel like, hey, let's do a live stream about it. Maybe something good can come out of this, where we all realize that lawyers are people too, and we are not magicians. We can't totally change people's crappy situations. I think a lot of attorneys, especially the younger solo attorneys, often become the butt of resentment and hostility from their clients and former clients, because they expect you to have all the answers and fix their problems, and that's why they're coming to you, and they gave you all this money and you didn't solve the problem, you didn't do this right. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking. So it can be really tough to be a solo practitioner. So thank you guys for being here. Hi, Sophia. Hi, Dragon Man and Delicious Plum. I appreciate you guys being here. It's sort of a last minute live stream, and just been really busy today with more client matters that just sprung up on me. So there is also another attorney I would like to mention, actually a couple of them, but this one is Janet Downing. Okay, so this is a little YouTube clip of her when she was a practicing workers' comp attorney.
Who will be there for you? I will. I'm attorney Janet Downing, and I represent people who have been injured on the job. You need one lawyer who will never let the insurance company harm you. One lawyer with a heart to care for you and your family. You need one lawyer, just one, who understands that she has your entire life in her hands. I'm Janet Downing, and I am that lawyer.
Get the help you need. Call attorney Janet Downing at 672-0310.
Okay, so that was Janet Downing. I sort of knew her because back then I was also doing a lot of workers' comp cases for a small law firm. And in fact, one of the attorneys I worked for had gotten to know her through the workers' comp section of the trial lawyers group. So unfortunately, Janet, I mean, she seemed to have a great career. Especially at first when she was a district attorney or assistant district attorney. She became sort of famous in local news for prosecuting some very high-profile murders. Then later she started her own law practice doing workers' comp down in Fayetteville, as well as somewhere closer to Charlotte. And I remember, I think I still have an email from her from many years ago, but unfortunately, Janet also suffered from depression and some mental health issues. So I would say about 8 years ago, she took her own life in a very gruesome way. The night before she died, she actually had gone over to her neighbor's house and said that she had hit rock bottom and she was having financial problems and she didn't want to live anymore. So I find it kind of strange that, what did the neighbor do? The neighbor clearly, didn't try to help get her any help or something, because the next day Janet crashed her car off the side of a highway, and that didn't kill her. So she walked into the highway and was struck multiple times by different vehicles. So very sad, very shocking, especially since a lot of the attorneys I knew, especially the workers' comp bar, we all knew her and had a high opinion of her. And she had previously been very high functioning, very successful, knew what she was doing and everything. So that's what happened to Janet Downing. This is kind of a weird, I guess it's a depressing live stream, but for anybody that cares to hear about this and wants to discuss mental health issues, legal advice, share your experience. And I hope this also persuades those of us in the legal profession, as well as other professions, to be more courteous towards our colleagues. You never know what kind of issue of what comes from family issues, financial issues people are going through. So, just practice some more kindness out there, random acts of kindness. There's no need to put down other people, to just be a jerk when you don't really need to be. Just cautionary tales here. Okay, so this attorney, maybe some of you guys actually have heard of her, because she was one of the main prosecutors in the case against Michael Peterson in the murder case. And now a lot of people nationally know about that case because of the special called The Staircase. So this article talks about Freda Black, how she became a victim after the glory. So she was a very skilled attorney. She was in the news a lot. She was very tough, well-educated, went to Wake Forest University and got her law degree from Campbell here in North Carolina. And she was assistant prosecutor in Durham County. A lot of high-profile cases there. But what happened to her after the Peterson case was that she ran for office. She lost, trying to become the head district attorney of Durham. And she had been suffering from alcoholism for many years, apparently, and basically succumbed to that. She was disbarred, had DUIs. And I remember an article about her when she was still alive, where it said she was working as a clerk in a dry cleaning business. So this article tries to ask, what caused a downward spiral. That's a picture of her, I think, with her daughters. So she came from a very successful, high-achieving family of doctors and lawyers and people with PhDs. But she had an alcohol problem that just created more and more problems to her. And after she got disbarred, things really went downhill. And I remember seeing a picture of her when the news was covering her DUIs, where she just looked like a totally different person. She looked like very mentally ill and disheveled and everything. So she ended up, actually, I don't think technically, did she really take her own life? Well, she did through all the drinking and stuff, but she was found deceased in her home with, I think it was like severe liver disease or something that was related to her alcoholism. So just really sad to hear about Freda Black, because I still remember many years ago when she was doing the Michael Peterson case, and she was constantly in the news. She was a really tough as nails, really sharp prosecutor, did a great job, served the public. And to find out later that she died alone in her home due to all the problems caused by her alcoholism. That's pretty sad also. So So what are we going to do about it, though? I mean, I know I try to make things into a little bit more uplifting, like what lessons are we going to learn from this, even though there is a lot of tragedy. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Dragon Man. I appreciate your support and the super sticker. Thank you, Debt Free Dad. Thank you, Helen, for being here also. Yeah, pretty serious topic we're talking about here. Oh, okay. Well, I see a question here. Thank you for being here, Ryan. Do you think discrimination still remains a larger obstacle to Asian American lawyers than the natural competitiveness of the legal field? Yeah, I definitely think so. And I do have a very old live stream from maybe 2 years ago when I was first starting to do YouTube, where I talked about racism in the legal profession. So I'm pretty sure that live stream show is still up on my channel if you want to see it. But in that live stream, I did talk more about my personal experiences. And, I mean, things are definitely different because I'm here in North Carolina, where there really aren't that many Asian American attorneys, although we are getting more and more. So it's gotten to the point where some younger attorneys are trying to start up the Asian American Lawyers Group again. So I actually tried to start up the PABA chapter here in North Carolina back in 2002, but we had so few Asian American or Asian Pacific American attorneys in the Triangle area that we could never really get the group going. It was basically me and this Filipino American attorney, Sheldon Pantawi, who would have meetings, and sometimes it would just be Sheldon and me. So it's really hard to get a group going when Asian Americans make such a small percentage of the legal community. But it's totally different in places like California, because I have lots of friends that are practicing around the Bay Area and Los Angeles, and there are so many Asian American attorneys that they even have their own separate ethnic group bar associations, like the Chinese lawyers or the Korean lawyers or the Vietnamese lawyers. Like it's just totally different depending on what state, what city you're in. So I mean, I have managed to succeed. I think I'm sort of successful because I'm still in solo law practice after 20. Well, actually, I became solo in 2006. So I think it does lead more towards depression too, because for quite a while there, when I was working for small law firms and not making much pay, I was trying over and over again to try to get a better job. And it was depressing and frustrating because I just couldn't get those jobs. I couldn't even get an interview for most of the jobs I was applying for that I felt like I was quite qualified for. And I did interview with a bigger firm, and ultimately they gave the job to somebody else. But the hiring partner told me at the time of my interview that he had already gotten 120 resumes for that one position, and the resumes were still flowing in. So sometimes I did worry that, okay, great, it's because I'm stuck in the South in North Carolina, and there still is some of this good old boy network stuff where people are lawyers because their fathers were lawyers and their grandfathers were lawyers or judges and stuff, and there's nepotism going on, which does also affect the legal job market. So anyway, yes, I do think it is still somewhat of an obstacle for Asian Americans or other people who might feel like they are minorities in the legal profession. Sorry about my voice as usual. I need some water here because I just had 2 client consultations before this, which I didn't expect. Usually I try not to schedule consultations when I know I'm going to live stream because a lot of talking is just really tough on your throat. Hey, Julian, thank you. Thanks so much for being here. And Julian is a law student, right? I think you're at a very prestigious Ivy League school. So if you want to tell us how your experience has been and how the job market seems, I'd really be interested in hearing your opinions. Julian also has a YouTube channel, although I'm not sure if you've had time to really post much on your channel, but I do subscribe and I would love to hear your thoughts some more. Thank you. Hey, Ryan, thanks for answering. I find myself more and more discouraged to be a lawyer every day. My dream. Oh, well, I don't want to discourage people, okay? Because I'm trying to just bring up these issues that everybody talks about it. I mean, every so often you see some article in the ABA journal or some lawyer magazine or the lawyer newspaper or whatever, giving some lip service like, oh, depression and anxiety and drug and alcohol problems are so prevalent in our legal profession. What are we going to do about it? But it just keeps happening because, part of it is that I think the people who want to become lawyers, sometimes we are the type A driven personalities who really want to do good or do justice and actually care about certain causes and stuff. And one of my attorney friends who's a partner at a law firm now, she said that there are some articles saying that depressed lawyers actually make better lawyers, because when you're depressed, you're kind of negative. And if you're reviewing contracts and looking at people's problems and stuff, it actually is beneficial to be kind of like a negative, depressive person, because you're advising people to be cautious. Like, would you really want to bring a contract to some happy-go-lucky, optimistic lawyer who isn't going to point out all the pitfalls in that contract? So anyway, so that sort of makes sense, that depressive personalities probably make better lawyers in general. Okay, Asians make up 6% of the legal profession, but Asians have the highest average salary. Yeah, but that's because most of the Asian American attorneys are in those very high cost of living places like New York City, California, Hawaii. So yeah, but nobody ever asked me what my salary was. I never took part in those kinds of surveys, but I definitely would have been bringing down that salary range if anybody had asked me how much I was making when I was working for those small law firms. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Hal. My grandchildren are Filipino. I love how large the community is here. Yeah, it really depends on where you are. Yeah. I live in Queens. Asian Americans are super respected and admired. They seem to be more drawn to medicine. Yeah, because I come from a family of doctors, and I thought about being pre-med in the past. I have lots of cousins and relatives that are doctors now. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, everybody's always like having doubts, right? Yeah, 90% of every profession wish they did something else. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, because who's to say, maybe some people still would have been alcoholics and depressed and have anxiety problems if they had, gotten into business school or, been a teacher or whatever. There are depressed people across all professions, right? Your work is so important and inspiring. I got an intern. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's funny because I interviewed with the Brooklyn DA's office when I was a law student also. Yeah, I can't remember how it went, but ultimately I didn't want to live in New York because I was getting married and, staying in DC and stuff. So that's great. Got an internship. Yeah, I still remember going to that office and interviewing there. That's so funny that you're going to work there. For your first summer, significant amount of racism, even in law school. Yeah, because, you probably got a lot of like, privileged people that are your classmates who probably have not been around a lot of people of different races, like they haven't been around a lot of Black people or Hispanics or who knows what. So, so I'm sorry if you have felt some racism in law school. And I mean, all you can do is try to be the best person you can and try to educate people. So, yeah, I mean, that's just sad. It's 2023 and people are still acting like that. That's sad. Attorneys' careers are stressful because you have an expectation of perfection and winning. Yes, I totally agree. No one wants to hear about you making a mistake or not being able to participate in an outcome or option. Yeah, that is so correct. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and by the way, Debt-Free Dad, he's also an attorney. He is located in DC. I think it's okay to say this because you mention it all the time on your channel. So hope you guys check out Debt-Free Dad Marcus's channel. He talks more about finance, but he does have some things about being an attorney. And the way I found him was because I saw his video about whether going to law school was worth it. So always nice to meet people through YouTube and also find out that we have a lot of friends and mutual acquaintances. So, let's see, Dragon Man, where I am, there was a shortage of mental health providers due to the pandemic. Yeah, very, very true. I think the pandemic made a lot of people who were kind of borderline depressed and made the things a lot worse with anxiety and, not to mention financial distress, especially for solo practitioners. So I wanted to show you guys another thing that just popped up on my YouTube feed a few days ago. So yet another depressed young lawyer. I'm sorry, but I think it's important again to hear more stories, because here Julian, he I don't know if people care, but he's actually he's Vietnamese and Armenian, and he also graduated from UC Berkeley like I did. Although he's much younger than I am, so I didn't know him from Cal. And he managed to get into Harvard Law School. So a lot of people think like, wow, you're set. You went to Harvard Law School. Everything's great, right? And after watching his channel a little bit, it turns out that Julian, being a Harvard graduate, he had a lot of doors open to him. He was valedictorian also of his high school class. So he worked for this firm called Wilson Sonsini, which coincidentally is the same law firm that my ex-husband was going to go work for in the Bay Area within DC. So it sounds like Julian had some anxiety even before he went to law school. I think he saw a therapist. I don't know if he was taking medication or something, but he's very, very candid about these issues because that's what he wants his channel to be about, which is the legal profession, why he quit, problems in the legal profession, and mental health issues. So after working for the firm for 3 years, he quit his job. So this is his video where he says, I quit my $325K lawyer job. Here's why. So I totally encourage you guys to check out his channel. It's called Julian Sarafian, Sarafian. And he only has a little over 3,000 subscribers, but hopefully if he does more content and the word gets out about his channel, then maybe he will get a lot more subscribers, because I think his content is good and it's clear he's put a lot of work into making his video productions look really good. So, okay, let me take a look at the comments here. Thanks, Riley. I know a lawyer who is very show-off, but it is a joke. He brags about being an Ivy League graduate, but didn't get into Ivy League law school and spends the entire day on Twitter. Yeah. Well, I mean, we see that all the time because, I've checked out a lot of lawyer and legal types of YouTube channels and stuff. And the more I delve into these people or find out about the people, I realize that they are actually embellishing their careers or exaggerating or just straight up lying about what their legal career was or what they're doing. So so don't trust everything you see out on social media. I try to be honest and transparent with my channel, but not everybody out there on social media is really out there being honest, and it's kind of sad, when they feel like they have to present a certain image in order to get more views or more likes or get more respect from the general public. Yeah. What's an alternative job for Asians that want to be a lawyer but are absolutely terrible at STEM? What? Okay. I'm majoring as a poli-sci major. I'm so glad that you're here voicing out unspoken truth. Well, how about pharmaceutical sales? I don't know if you have to be like a young, hot-looking woman to do pharmaceutical sales, but I did have one client many years ago who actually had a criminal record and had just gone to community college, but he was making bank. He was making tons of money working as a pharmaceutical sales rep. So that's an idea. I mean, I have no idea how tough the job market is for that kind of job. Just one idea off the top of my head. I mean, that's like asking, well, how do I get rich if I'm no good at STEM? Good question. Yeah. Or become a televangelist or something. You got to find something that you're good at, that you can really work hard at and be able to make a good job. Yeah. I mean, I used to tell people, well, heck, you could go get a nursing degree. Actually, one of my relative relative of a relative. He's from the Philippines, and he was a lawyer there. But he came here to join his wife, who's a nurse. And of course, he's not licensed here. He can't practice law here. So he actually went back to a community college to get a nursing degree. So, yeah, there's different options out there. I mean, sometimes, I used to be kind of like down on community colleges, but now as I get older, I see a lot of people who actually are very successful with just a specialized degree from a community college. And, I can't laugh at them because some of them are making more money than I am. So, yeah, anybody have ideas for Ryan, please let me know. Hi, Deep Dive True Crime. He's also an attorney who has a YouTube channel, which is really big, covering true crime cases and showing interrogations. So this is, I think I can say your name because you've mentioned your name many times on YouTube. His name is James, and he's an attorney in Tallahassee who has also covered the Dan Markel law professor murder case extensively. Okay, lawyers say I'm a Harvard grad and got a free certificate. Yeah, that's so true, because I've seen it a lot, not just with lawyers, but with other people who might have just attended some continuing ed or extension or whatever they call it. Yeah, one of those like Harvard online courses, and they're like Harvard trained. I am Harvard trained. I'm like, dang, maybe I should do that too. Then I can say I'm Harvard trained because I took some class for 3 days online with Harvard. Yeah. Stats on the happiness of nurses is just as bad as attorney, high divorce rate, depression rate, substance abuse. It's all on the individual. Okay, well, I did not know that. Okay, but I know, just from common knowledge, it is pretty tough also to be a nurse because you have to deal with a lot of stressful situations, and, you can't be your own boss. So I'll go ahead and take Julian Serafian's channel off the screen, but I encourage you guys to listen to this. I mean, he's very articulate and stuff. And speaking of that, I just want to bring out one example of one obnoxious attorney, and this is why there is depression amongst the legal profession, because a lot of other attorneys can be very rude and ruthless and full of themselves. I think that is the stereotype, that many attorneys are jerks, bombastic. You have to be loud and aggressive to be a good attorney or whatever. So lo and behold, yesterday, I got a comment from someone who I'm pretty sure is a lawyer on one of my latest live streams. And the person was just basically complaining and criticizing me for not being prepared for live streams, crappy cell phone, bad audio. I'm always late to live streams, not prepared, filming outside. And I was like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? What drugs are you on? Because in that live stream that he commented on, I was clearly indoors inside a room, but he was criticizing me for filming outdoors with all the noise and distraction. So anyway, that comment no longer appears on my channel, but I do want to address it because the person's personality just seems to encompass everything that is horrible about the legal profession. Just coming out, being a jackass, being rude and critical, not understanding what may be going on behind the scenes. I mean, it wasn't until later, after I had responded to him, that I realized he was actually criticizing the hell out of my last appearance on Surviving the Survivor, which is another podcast / YouTube channel where I'm friends with the people there. And I'm very happy to see Surviving the Survivor grow to almost 50,000. Maybe they're over 50K subscribers now, because they cover a lot of true crime cases. So I was there as a guest with 2 other attorneys last Thursday on the live stream show. But, the reason why I was sitting in my car, there was noise. I couldn't control that, somebody's doing lawn work wherever my car was parked. The reason I was late and looked totally unprepared and was sitting in my car outside was because originally when I was approached to be on the show, I was told it was going to be at 7 o'clock. So 5:05, I get a frantic phone call from someone who works behind the scenes with them saying, "Hey, Judy, are you going to be on the show?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm here pumping gas at the gas station." And I asked, well, I could probably be on in 15 minutes when I can stop the car and film using my cell phone. And so he did say, sure, we would still love to have you. So I was like, okay, it's not ideal. So the question is, would you rather have me not even appear on that show and share my knowledge about the Dan Markel murder case? Or, you want everything wrapped up with a bow, looking nice and professionally produced. Well, that's not my channel. That's not what I can do, because that's not my real professional job. So anyway, I have run across plenty of attorneys, usually older men, but also female attorneys too, with that kind of obnoxious personality. With, they clearly have issues, and you wonder, how do they get along with their own partners, if they even have a spouse, with their kids? How do they get along in life with that kind of rotten, horrible attitude? Like, I'm just struggling to not curse here because I don't want my live stream shut down. But I'm sure you guys who do YouTube, you guys know what I mean. You work so hard to try to put out some information, and you're not making any money doing it. Or maybe even when you're monetized, you might make $2 an hour for all the time and effort you put into your channel, hoping that somebody will appreciate it and somebody will have their lives made better or feel like they got some value out of it. And then along comes some jackass attorney like that, trying to just basically crap on all the work you've done and just criticize and criticize when they're not paying your bills. I told the person, you can feel free to give me a gigantic donation, give me a massive donation so I can turn YouTube into my career and buy expensive professional equipment and rent out a production studio or whatever, but you get what you pay for. So anyway, I just feel like I have to vent about that because it just happened yesterday when I was thinking about this whole lawyer mental health issue. And, that person is an attorney himself. So. Okay, Dragon Man. Used to work at a health clinic. We viewed pharmaceutical sales as pests because they were taking time away from patients. Oh, okay. Interesting to hear, because I thought people liked them because they usually showed up with free food and goodies, trinkets and office supplies and stuff. Yeah, but definitely they are salespeople because, once I heard more about this one person that I have in mind, I was like, why would doctors want to take advice about what medications to give from this person? Like, they're not doctors. They're not even medically trained, most of them. They're just, nice looking people who are good at talking and pushing drugs because they work for the drug companies. So, but I digress. Okay, deep dive. Started watching the Jared from Subway documentary. I saw it all as an attorney, but he still made me cringe. Yeah, that was sad. Yeah, because I remember when people liked Jared. Yeah. I saw it. You were great. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know I could have presented better. There I was. Hey, okay, so I did tell Debt-Free Dad that I was wearing his t-shirt because I had won one of his contests a long time ago, and he sent me one of his Hustle, Save, Invest, Repeat t-shirts, which you can buy through his channel. So, when I was talking to Steve, who's the booking guy for Surviving the Survivor, I was like, I look like a mess. I have no makeup on. I'm wearing this t-shirt. And I'm going to be in my car using my cell phone, holding it up the whole time. And he was like, no, we want you. We want you to be on that show. So that is why the Surviving the Survivor show that had me on it last Thursday did not look professional. And somebody got rabidly, insanely angry because he felt I did not present well. And I was so unprofessional to be on it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Helen. Some people just have something negative to say. Misery loves company, just like those comments. Remember, it all helps the algorithm. Yeah, it does. But, sometimes I just end up blocking people because I don't want my mind space taken up by these negative, obnoxious comments from people. I don't even know them in real life. It could be someone with mental health problems, or just some loser that feels like they want to bring you down and feel like they have power over you. Yeah. Thank you, TXC Tells All. Yeah. I guess you've probably had your share of negative comments from rude people. So, yeah. Oh, and you guys also please support TXC Tells All. She's an attorney in Texas who works for the government, and she has a lot of really good, interesting attorney takes on different pop culture topics, latest news, different lawsuits, legal cases, as well as advice helping veterans with their benefits. Oh, Okay. I watched you on STS. I found nothing wrong or loud with your appearance. Okay. Yeah. But see, I had it all planned out. Really, I was going to be prepared because, I was, like I said, originally it was supposed to be at 7 o'clock. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go out, do all this stuff, family obligations. And then I'm going to go home, have plenty of time to, wash my face, put on makeup, put on the eyeliner, get dressed up in a nice looking professional or better looking dress or outfit or something, but things didn't happen the way we wanted it to, but we still did the live stream. Okay. It's YouTube. It's not CNN, just like fancy fiction says, people who are criticizing us seem to be wanting us to be like CNN, breaking news, professional, expensive broadcast studio. Seeing what your partner went through in big law. Are you happy you decided to work in smaller law firms and eventually went solo? Well, originally I was not happy to work for smaller law firms because the pay was abysmal. I mean, okay, so this is really sad, and we're talking about, I guess, 2000 to 2001-ish dollars, but my pay at the first firm I worked for in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, paid me $22,500 as a base salary. And then I was supposed to get a percentage of the cases that I primarily handled or worked on. But of course, later on, the boss got mad when I gave him too much notice that I had to move due to my then husband's job. So he cut my commissions. So overall, I think I was capped at $45,000 for annual salary there. Then I moved to North Carolina, and I worked for a firm where my starting salary was $36,000. And this was like in 2001 through 2002. And every year I did get bonuses and a slight pay increase, but that's not much when you're starting at 36K. It's not like you're suddenly going to jump up to 80,000 or 90,000 or even 60,000. So it just made me depressed on some level to feel like I had gone through all this work, going to UC Berkeley and Georgetown, taking all these bar exams, jumping through all these hoops, only to, come out making a piddly salary that was about the same as a public school teacher. So at that point, I would have been so thrilled if any of those bigger law firms, not even true big law, but like a regional firm, if they would have hired me. I mean, Lord knows I tried to apply when I moved to North Carolina, but since I had no connections here and I didn't go to law school here, I couldn't even get interviews, and there just weren't that many job openings available anyway. So, but ultimately, my ex-husband, he was also not happy working for big law, even though the money was great. So that's why he left that firm in DC and then became a law professor. So, the pay was nowhere near as great, but the quality of life is wonderful if you can become a law professor. And that's tenure track, tenured law professor, not an adjunct professor who usually makes just like thousands of dollars to teach a class here or there. But tenure track and tenured law professors are some of the happiest people with JDs, in my opinion. Now going solo, again, there were times when I was solo and feeling kind of depressed on some level also, because especially when I first started my own law practice, the pay was, you don't call it pay, it's like income. Like, what are you able to bring in as business? As you being a solo practitioner, you eat what you kill, and you have overhead costs too, which, some people just don't seem to realize that even though, I might be a lawyer and I'm in business for myself, it doesn't really mean that I'm rolling in the dough and collecting the hundreds of dollars per hour that I charge, because there is a lot of overhead. And there are going to be times when there is non-billable work. There are things that you have to do where you can't bill a client for it. There's not always going to be some big high-paying client rolling in through the door. A lot of it could be, smaller piecemeal, flat fee types of cases. So, okay, Debt-Free Dad says, it's all good, Judy. No need to even address the good. Yeah, I think that'll be the last time that I actually mention, some obnoxious jerk, just jumping into the comments and leaving these like really rude, negative things. But sometimes people email me directly also, just telling me that my website looks like crap and my hair was a mess and don't look good on the screen, blah, 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 I'm just covering the Markel case to get clicks, just really rude, obnoxious people who have nothing better to do with their lives. If you don't like somebody's YouTube channel, then just don't watch it. Nobody's forcing you to watch it. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Fancy Fiction. Yeah, Fancy Fiction is also another YouTuber. She's been covering the Dan Markel law professor murder case extensively, so definitely support her channel. She's provided so much very, very important information for the understanding of the whole Dan Markel Adelson case. So really appreciate you being here also. Okay, Debt-Free Dad says, you can curse. They won't shut you down. Just don't curse in the first 10 seconds. Okay, yeah, that's what I read somewhere too. But, I try to keep cursing at a minimum, right? Because kind of lessens the effect if you're cursing all the time, right? Okay, can't believe you don't have more subs, honestly. Yeah, well, I know there are ways I can improve. I don't have the best speaking voice. I feel hoarse already. And, if I don't look prepared, it's probably because I just got off a client phone call or just running back from court. I did want to also mention there have been a couple of live streams where literally I had just gotten out of court and I'm like, shoot, I had a live stream scheduled. So I'm like speeding down, or not really speeding, but driving quickly down the highway, trying to get back to the office or get back home so I can jump on a live stream. So the last thing I need is for some jerks like that guy Joe to be posting comments about, oh, you're always late for your live streams. Yeah, right on, Judy. Ungrateful bastards. You get what you get. People are so entitled. Yeah. Thank you, Fancy. People like pharma sales when they get illegal kickbacks. LOL. Oh, okay. Well, you would know, right? Because don't you investigate medical fraud? So, yeah, interesting. But yeah, I was surprised that some people can make such good money being pharmaceutical salespeople. Missed it. I'll go back and play it later to see what pissed you off. Oh, okay. Yeah, what was it? Well, I wasn't really pissed off, but it was one of the commenters who seems to care about the Dan Markel murder case. So you kind of feel like we sort of have this community of lawyers and true crime buffs and people who really care, on my channel. Although, granted, my channel isn't just about the Dan Markel case. I do want to cover some other topics. Sometimes I know that can't sustain a channel forever, but so anyway, yeah, it was a commenter that was pissed off at me, saying that I looked very unprofessional and unprepared, and how dare I like put myself out there, yada yada. Yeah. Okay, you noticed a shirt from Debt-Free Dad. Yeah, thank you. It's a nice shirt, very good quality. Yep. 98% of people like you, Judy, in any form. The other 2% are insane. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. I've said it before. It's like, I'm not a professional broadcaster. I'm not Joel Waldman of Surviving the Survivor, who has a real career, 30 something years of working on Fox News and maybe MSNBC. I'm not really sure, but he has a real career and he has a great voice. He has a great mic. I think he and his mom were renting out a production studio to do their podcasts, and everything looks really nice. But again, he can't control what happens with the guests either. Sometimes the guests are late. Sometimes the guests, in one case, on one live stream, that attorney just totally forgot or didn't show up for the live stream. So I had to just live stream and ad lib the whole time, just talking about the Markel case without a guest. So sometimes things happen beyond your control. And I know you guys out there that are still watching, you guys understand, but there are some people out there in YouTube world that are just really unreasonable and full of themselves, like to trash other people on YouTube. Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Okay, thanks for the shout out. Sure. Yeah. Please support our fellow YouTubers and fellow attorneys on YouTube. It's not about what you look like or that you were in the car. You were still smiling. We were happy to see you. I'm 15 minutes behind in life. Okay, sure. Okay, thank you, KJ Brew. I appreciate your support. Did your mental health improve upon going solo? I feel like most of the negative stress comes from having a boss. Yes, totally. Yeah, because I know I've mentioned this a long time ago, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I actually got fired from a small law firm when I moved from North Carolina after 2 weeks. And one of the partners just came into my office and threw the papers down on my desk and started half yelling at me, saying that he didn't like the memo I had written and that it seemed like I needed a lot more hand holding and he could hire a paralegal for less than the amount he was paying me. And I was like, well, excuse me, like this is where, again, the legal profession does draw your share of psychopaths, and not just, if you don't want to call them psychopaths, maybe people with personality disorders or people that are perfectionists and angry all the time, just expect everybody to be at their beck and call, and just really difficult personalities. So this person, I don't know if he was on the spectrum or what, but definitely he was not one of those like friendly, laid back, fun types of attorneys. And there are a lot of people like that. And are those the types of people that succeed and make partner at law firms? Maybe, because if that's what the clients want, then it makes sense that the lawyers who really succeed are the ones that act like jerks and pit bulls in the courtroom, those types of personalities. But it is difficult to work for a lot of attorneys who might have their own mental health issues. And I have worked for lawyers that told me about their mental health problems also, including like actual diagnoses. Yeah. So at first I still felt kind of crummy being solo because I was kind of backed into a corner. I didn't become solo really because of real personal freedom and free choice, but it was because of necessity. It was because paychecks were bouncing at my last law firm, and I knew I had no future there. How do you want to become partner of a law firm when there are financial problems to the point where everybody's paycheck is bouncing? And it wasn't like a total mess for me because I had savings and I had a spouse who had a good stable job back then. But for the legal assistants, the assistants who worked there, it totally screwed up their finances when their paychecks would be bouncing. So I knew I had to leave, and I tried desperately for a while to try to find a better job, try to get a job with the government, with other law firms. Couldn't even get an interview most of the time. And then I got rejected from that law firm where I was one of 120 applicants at the time. So when I started becoming a solo, sure, there were times I was like, what the hell happened with my legal career? Here I am. I graduated from Georgetown. My parents spent all this money sending me to college and law school. Here I am, scrambling around, and I had to teach the SAT and the LSAT and do some tutoring for a company, taught for Kaplan to try to make some extra income because things were so tough that first year of my solo practice. So it's definitely not some easy thing where you can just slide out of law school and hang up your shingle and people are going to pay you $300 an hour for your work. That ain't going to happen. So, but gradually, as my solo practice started getting better and better, boy, at this point, I would definitely not work for anybody else. I'd have to be very desperate or something, or, that's not going to happen anymore to want to work for someone else because, working for other people, even though there can be some good bosses, good managers and stuff, there's always a chance that somebody in your workplace is going to make your day crummy or just be a thorn in your side. You have to depend on the moods of other people, and that can affect you also. So I'm just really glad to not have to work for other people anymore. And I already have to deal with some obnoxious attorneys as opposing counsel. So to then also have to put myself in that kind of work environment where I might also have crap raining down on me from my own coworkers or bosses. No thanks. So yeah, I'm pretty happy being a solo now. Yeah, after 17 years of solo practice. Have you heard? International law? No, it's kind of, I'm not even really sure like what an international lawyer would do. Like maybe you're just really focusing on contracts and businesses for corporations or intellectual property, for example. Yeah, because I do have some friends who are bilingual, who ended up working for big law firms or big corporations overseas, like in Shanghai or Hong Kong. Yeah, I've known of a couple of attorneys who ended up going to Australia to work. Yeah, but most of the time you would have to work for a humongous big law firm that happens to have an office overseas. So, I mean, it might sound really elegant and sophisticated, to be like flying, jet setting around, staying at fancy hotels and being in different cities and stuff, but that's definitely not for me. Once you get older, if you have a family and stuff, you want to settle down. You don't want to be like flying out. Yeah, because my ex-husband, when he worked for that big law firm, sometimes he would have to fly out to London to their office to do work, but it wasn't any fun. It wasn't to be a tourist, to have fun in London, but rather you just wind up in another big corporate office building, working until 3 a.m. or working these weird hours and stuff. So yeah, I haven't thought about that at all. Yeah, but thank you for the question. I've had traumatic experiences from bad bosses. So has a friend. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty traumatic to go from, thinking most of your life that you are a pretty intelligent person, being at the top of the class, to being just totally, shat upon by some like asshole lawyer that you're working for. And I think that happens to a lot of young lawyers. You get these people, many of whom graduated from the very top law schools, Ivy League law schools, and then they go work for these big law firms, big corporate environments, and then they get yelled at or treated like poo, by these older attorneys. And, some of them eventually are told that they're being laid off or being fired because they're not doing enough work, not billing enough hours and stuff. So in that respect, working for big law can also be traumatic. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think I covered this. This is a common theme in a lot of my live streams and videos about the legal profession. There are definitely too many people with JDs, and a lot of them don't actually become lawyers because they can't find jobs to be lawyers. They wind up having to drive for Uber or work at a grocery store part-time, or, work as a waitress. Yeah. So one of the former interns at one of my old law firms had graduated from UNC Law School. She couldn't find a job first, so she was working at a pizza restaurant as a waitress, and she ended up seeing some of these lawyers that she had interviewed for a job with as customers at her restaurant. Yeah, so it was very humiliating for her, but after about a year, she wound up getting a nice job with the federal government up in DC. So I think she's doing well now, but definitely very, very tough legal job market. What's your advice for older applicants over 30 years old who want to go to law school? Well, you have to just only go if you won't have any student loans or very, very little in terms of student loans. Yeah, because one of the live streams I did last year it's called something like Is Law School Worth It? And then I focused on a couple of Business Insider articles. And one of the people spotlighted was this man who's about 50 years old, who had gone to law school when he was 32, University of Maryland Law School, but then he couldn't pass the bar. He took the bar exam a couple of times. He mentioned that he had mental health problems or issues, but we don't know like real details. But what was sad was that man was married with 2 daughters already when he decided to leave his job. I think he had some sort of political type job, or he had political aspirations. So everybody seemed to have a JD. So he was like, well, I want to go to law school too. So in the article, I think it said he took out over $200,000 of loans to go to law school, which I find kind of weird. It must have been mostly for his living expenses, because it sounded like he was an in-stater at University of Maryland. But either way, with all the debt plus the interest, just racking up over all the years, he's still grappling with his law school debt, and he never passed a bar exam. So don't let that happen to you. I mean, definitely don't go to these low-ranked law schools or unaccredited law schools. Just so not worth the money. It's not worth being saddled down with tons of debt. Yeah. But good luck. I mean, of course, similarly, I do know of some friends and other attorneys who went to law school in their 30s or even 40s, and they wound up having good to okay careers. It's not like I really ask people how much money they're making and stuff, but most of the time they wind up becoming solo practitioners. Okay, traveled for work. It's kind of depressing after. Yeah, because you're not around your community. You have no friends, or, you're just there to do your work and then just sit around in the hotel and then go back to the workplace. It's all very transitory. Yeah, I can see it would be not exciting after a while. What type of lawyers are the happiest? Well, I would say, if you're a successful solo practitioner, then you can be one of the happiest lawyers. I think a lot of it is tied to, unfortunately, it's also tied to money, because money and autonomy, the ability to choose your clients and what kind of people you have to deal with, plus making enough money so that you're not stressed out wondering how you're going to pay the office rent or your mortgage, or, a lot of people still have student loans too. So that's a big impediment toward people starting their own practices. So I would say, there are some people who are in-house counsel that get paid pretty well. And those seem to be kind of like good, stable jobs where you're getting a nice paycheck every 2 weeks or every month or whatever. In-house counsel jobs. There are some government attorneys that are pretty happy also. It just really depends on what kind of work you want to do, what kind of people you're surrounded by, because you could get a government job and yet feel like crap because you have to work with very disagreeable, horrible people. So, I mean, I know one attorney who seems to have a good job, but I found out through that person's spouse that he was actually suffering severe anxiety and panic attacks, and he hated his job and stuff. But for some reason, I guess he felt like he had no other career options. So as far as I know, he's still working at the same place. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Julian. You're also hilarious. Okay, thank you. Well, speaking of being hilarious, okay, you guys, I know people are probably going to be appalled or criticize me or something, but I have run this by Dan Markel's mother and another person on YouTube that I respect. So on Saturday, I'm going to have this quasi live stream show where it's going to be song, dance, and comedy. And I'm going to pretend to be Donna Adelson, as well as one of Charlie's ex-girlfriends. So I hope you guys will watch it and laugh along and not be offended, but people who are easily offended should not watch that. So, yeah. Okay, you're welcome, Henry. Yeah, hey, Dr. Sav, please support her channel also. So Dr. Sav works hard on her YouTube channel. She talks about finances and often has live stream shows on the weekends. So I really appreciate you being here also, Dr. Sav. Okay, so speaking of that, I do have a meeting to go to, and it's been over an hour. So just wanted to talk about these cases and the sad situation of Charles Kunz. Again, he has a GoFundMe, and I already closed the tab, but if anybody feels like contributing, Charles's wife could really use the help. I'll just put his name in here. Yeah. And it's just so awful. Somebody said on Facebook that another attorney had posted something negative about him the day that he killed himself. I mean, isn't that awful? And supposedly that person does not feel any remorse about doing that. So just based on what I've read, it looks like some other attorney found out that Charles had been disbarred or was getting ready to become disbarred. So she posted about it, maybe tagged him on Facebook. And then that day, or maybe it was the next day, Charles decided to take his own life, which is just horrible. Like, why would you do that? Like, someone's already at the worst point in their lives. He knows he's in trouble with the state bar. And for someone else to just post the news on Facebook or social media or something, that's just beyond cruel. People need to be nicer to each other. Don't be that person that pushes someone over the edge and to cause somebody's suicide and yet still have no remorse about it. It's just awful. I don't know that attorney, but I read about her. So yeah. Okay. So let's try to end on a slightly happier note. So, people should be more careful about getting into these horrible financial situations so that they don't wind up with severe anxiety and depression and thinking about offing themselves. I think a lot of it is driven by finances. So it's cool that Dr. Seth Talks Money as well as Debt Free Dad focus on financial issues on their channel. So important also. and just be kind to each other. Take good care of yourself. If you need a break, do things, put yourself first. Don't put other people's needs and wants ahead of your own personal mental well-being. So good luck to everybody out there, and hope you guys will enjoy the wacky, totally different comedy, dance, and song thing that I'm going to put out tomorrow in the late afternoon. Have a good day.